Well, welcome everyone to the January 2025 WordPress News Roundup here on Solid Academy. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at Solid Academy, and every month we take a look across the WordPress world and bring you the news that is particularly applicable to those of us that are building and managing client sites for in WordPress. So many things have happened in the last month, and we'll start off with as we usually do, the recent unpleasantness in WordPress. That's what we've come to call things. If you're just joining us in Zoom, I see several folks just popping in. I've dropped once again the link bundle in the chat if you'd like to download the slide deck and follow along. If you're watching this on the replay, just down below the video, you will find the link to download the slides. So yes, this recent unpleasantness that's several months old now, in the ongoing saga between Matt Mullenweg and WP Engine, and all of the fallout that has come with it. So let's get things started with, in about mid-December, there was an open letter signed by WordPress community members that was sent to Matt Mullenweg. It was unnamed WordPress contributors. They were a little concerned about poking their heads up above water for fear of retaliation. Although the repository, which is an excellent source for WordPress news, did verify that the 20 signatories were legitimate. So the letter was entitled, "Dear WordPress Community, We Stand With You." And that letter strongly criticizes Matt Mullenweg's excessive control, lack of accountability, double standards, and conflicts of interest throughout the WordPress project. Concerns were raised about a lack of governance and transparency in the operations of WordPress, particularly surrounding the trademark, hosting recommendations on the WordPress.org hosting page, and the activities of the WordPress Foundation. The letter urges Mullenweg to address the outstanding issues and work with the community on inclusive and transparent governance processes. This has been a call that's coming for some time. But despite the weighty grievances that are outlined in the letter, it remains optimistic about achieving a more democratic project through open discussions and reforms. Now, not long after that letter was published, Matt Mullenweg published the announcement that WordPress would be taking a holiday break, particularly WordPress.org. That was on December the 20th. Matt published on the official WordPress.org blog that many free services on the site would be paused to, quote, "give myself and the many tired volunteers around WordPress.org a break for the holidays." The services that were specifically mentioned were new account registrations and submissions to the plugin, theme, and photo directories. Mullenweg continued, "I hope to find the time, energy, and money to reopen all of this sometime in the new year. Right now, much of the time I would spend making WordPress better is being taken up defending against WP Engine's legal attacks." Now, because of the open-ended nature of that post, a lot of folks were concerned because it wasn't like, oh, we're going to be closed and reopened again, the first week of January. It was very open-ended. At some point in the new year was the quote. And so many tech media outlets wrote about this. However, WordPress.org reopened on January the 3rd. It's important to note these items that have been covered by tech media, because depending on your client, these are things they might hear and start to ask questions about. So that was definitely a subject of discussion around the holidays at the end of last month, particularly also because there wasn't a whole lot of other tech news going on at that point. So this got a lot of attention. Now, also sometime after this, it was the next day or two after the closure of WordPress.org for the holidays was announced, Joost de Valk, the founder of Joost SEO, called for a break in the status quo with a post on his blog. He said this holiday break caused issues that needed immediate fixing, but also makes more clear that we don't have the luxury of waiting. It was a bit of a wake-up call to many that WordPress.org could just be closed like this. And this is what prompted Joost's post. Joost called for 5 specific changes. First, a new foundation-like entity to lead the project with a diverse board from people across the WordPress industry. Also, WordPress.org and other community assets that currently belong personally to Matt Mullenweg should be given to that foundation. And third, the WordPress trademark should be given to the public domain, or at least granted fair use for terms like WordPress hosting or WordPress support. Also, he called for people and companies to sponsor this new foundation, with a supporters list being available publicly for transparency. And last of all, the creation of several small teams for things like architecture, product, events that would be created with proper governance structures. Now, those are things that many people have been talking about, but one of the most unique things about this post from Joost was the call for federated and independent repositories, which just happens to create the acronym FAIR. So the idea here is that WordPress.org should not be the only source for theme and plugin updates and core updates. Joost called for these repositories that would not simply be mirrors of WordPress.org, but they would be independent repositories that would federate with one another to share data and allow for independent themes and plugins to be hosted outside of the WordPress.org repository. So that created a lot of discussion, and I got to say, it's really interesting ideas there. Now, along with Joost, Karim Marucchi also published a post. Now, if you're not familiar with Karim, he's been around the WordPress world since about the beginning. He is the founder of the WordPress enterprise agency Crowd Favorite, with customers such as Disney. Anyway, Karim added to Joost's posts with additional business-oriented thoughts. If you've not read this article, it's a good one. Both Karim and Joost agree that WordPress is at a crossroads in terms of the project, the community, the trademark, and the ecosystem. So Karim suggested several ideas that we should focus on from a business continuity perspective. First of all, he supported creating the fair and independent repositories that Joost suggested. Fair should be designed from day one to prevent any single entity from disrupting the WordPress supply chain. That just makes sense. This kind of approach could be accomplished by leveraging tools like Andy Fragan's recently published Git Updater that allows you to manage a WordPress plugin through the Git repository rather than the honestly somewhat antiquated WordPress plugin subversion process, and adopting signed and verified developer updates just to make sure that the supply chain isn't compromised with a security attack. He also suggested that we should decide on how clear and transparent governance would work as a community. We need to modernize the WordPress stack. That is definitely needed. The focus on Gutenberg has come at a cost of abandoning a clean and customizable core for WordPress. And that is absolutely true. Also, sorry, I'm trying to get the slide link for those asking. Also, Karim suggested that we must embrace data ownership, privacy, and accessibility at the core level and not rely on plugins to do this. This is part of a next generation content management system. These things ought to be part of core. Now, in response to these two posts and the discussion that they caused, Matt Mullenweg banned Joost and Karim and some others. So on January the 11th, Mullenweg posted a response to Joost and Karim on the WordPress.org blog. While he went through great lengths to commend them individually and their personal integrity, Matt mocked their idea by calling it JK Press and labeling it as a fork, which neither of them called it. They're trying to work within the system of WordPress. Both Joost and Karim have emphasized they seek change within WordPress, not to create a fork. Matt went on to say in his post that to make this easy and hopefully give this project the push that it needs to get off the ground, I am deactivating the .org accounts of Joost, Karim, Say Reed, Heather Burns, and Morten Rand Hendrickson. Now, these last three people, Say Reed, Heather Burns, and Morton Rand Hendrickson, weren't even part of this discussion. These are people, however, that have criticized Matt at great length in public concerning governance. And so they were wrapped into this whole situation. And interestingly, neither Reed, Burns, or Rand Hendrickson are even part of the WordPress project anymore. Most of them have left a couple of years ago. It's really, really interesting. Also, over the last few weeks, January the 9th, the Automattic team announced via their blog that they will reduce their contribution to the WordPress project to match that of WP Engine, or about 45 hours per week. Now, the decision was made to reallocate resources due to the lawsuits from WP Engine and as a result of attacks from members of the WordPress community who want Matt to step away from the project. Now, automaticians who were focused on core projects will instead work on for-profit projects like WordPress.com, Jetpack, and WooCommerce. The change comes since members of the community have said that working on these sorts of things, commercial products, should count as a contribution to WordPress. Now, this is 45 hours total across all of Automattic's employees. Total, not per individual. This reduction also impacts the work of Mary Hubbard, who was recently appointed the executive director of the WordPress Foundation. Mary will now contribute 5 hours per week, according to her .org profile. Automattic said they plan to return to actively contributing to the WordPress core when legal attacks have stopped. So that happened. Also, Matt has warned in a tweet that this lawsuit could force a closure of WordPress.org. In a tweet on January the 13th, Matt warned that lawsuits due to the conflict he started with WP Engine could result in his personal bankruptcy and the closure of WordPress.org. Now, in the middle of all of this, reaction from the community is overwhelmingly negative. If you are... I'm not sure if I want to recommend this or not, but if you happen to dip your toe into Reddit, and particularly the subreddit WP Drama, you will find virtually all negative comments toward this whole situation as it impacts the community. Overwhelmingly negative. Many WordPressers are wondering out loud about alternatives to WordPress. The discussion, even tonight, the official Atlanta WordPress meetup group, the topic is other options besides WordPress. So there's a lot of discussion going on, particularly, by the way, as late last week, Drupal dropped a new update, which is a Drupal CMS. It's basically an opinionated version of Drupal that has settings applied out of the box to make it a basic CMS. A lot of folks are talking about this. Now, in addition to all of the conversations going on, last week, a WordPress developer has joined the WP Engine suit. Michael Willman, who is a WordPress agency owner, has filed a motion to intervene as part of this lawsuit. He claims severe personal and professional losses, including losing clients, his home, and laying off employees as a result of this conflict that Matt instigated. His motion includes 14 additional claims, including tortious interference, libel, and monopolization. He also claims he was banned from WordPress.org despite the injunction that should have prevented that WP Engine won in December. He seeks damages for losses and proposes a WordPress governance oversight board to manage the governance during the lawsuit. Now, this is interesting, okay? This piece right here is he's asking the court that because of all of the upheaval in this situation, that the court should create some sort of board to manage the situation. That is interesting. We'll have to see where that goes. Many, though, who have analyzed his suit don't see much substance. However, another interesting claim in his suit concerns violation of the U.S. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act related to the ACF SCF takeover. Like, code was replaced without people knowing it, essentially. And that could be an interesting twist in this. If you read the CFAA and some of its provisions, that's pretty interesting how this might actually shake out. So WordPress is at a crossroads. And you might hear all this news and think, is it time to panic? No, it is not time to panic. Is it time to jump ship from WordPress? No, it is not. Are you in imminent danger of losing all your sites and all the work you've done? No, you're not. WordPress is a billion-dollar economy. It's not going to disappear overnight. There are thousands of community members around the world who are doing things just like you are, and the community's not going anywhere. We are, however, at a crossroads in WordPress history that honestly might lead to something even better. I am hopeful because smart people are asking the right questions. So my advice in the middle of all of this, if you even want it, is look, don't panic. Don't panic. Don't jump ship. I'm not even exploring other options, okay? Just keep doing what you do and serve your clients well, okay? Stay up to date on what's going on, but don't obsess over the drama. And again, simply have an explanation ready for clients who might ask about this. And it ultimately boils down to money. That's what this boils down to. There's a lot of words floating out about the future of open source and all of this. This ultimately, when all the dust settles, I think what we're going to see is this is all about money. So with that, let's turn the page, shall we? News from Core. Now, WordPress 6.8, even with all the upheaval happening in WordPress, there is a new version of WordPress in the works. 6.8 will be launched on April the 15th, 2025, focusing on polish, bug fixes, and stability enhancements. Beta testing starts in March. Now, fewer features are planned because of the significant drop in contribution hours, but that's okay. And I think what we'll be seeing here is in the near term, there will be a slowdown in Core and Gutenberg development, particularly because of the contributor hours that Automattic is no longer going to be giving to the project. We can expect a significant slowdown, particularly in Gutenberg development. Now, many of Automattic contributor hours were directed there. So, how this reduction in development ultimately impacts the project is yet to be seen. However, the roadmap has not changed. This is the same roadmap we've been publishing for the last few months. It is what is available at wordpress.org/about/roadmap. We're still looking at April 2025 for 6.8, July for 6.9, and November for the 7.0 release in WordPress. All right, let's take a look at some of the changes that have happened in Project Gutenberg over the last several weeks. Gutenberg 19.9 dropped on December the 19th. Now, this is kind of interesting. The style book, which I've always liked, and I've followed the development of this, previously only available for block themes, is now also available for classic themes. You can find it now at Appearance, Design, and Styles if you have the Gutenberg plugin activated. This will ultimately be rolled into Core WordPress. Perhaps at the next version, we'll see. Here's how it looks. There's Appearance, and Design is a new link there. And now here's our styles. And we've got this nice style book that shows you how things look. I kind of like this. In addition to this, Gutenberg 20.0 dropped on January the 10th. The query total block was added that displays the number of results a query has returned. A very minor thing, but helpful. Also, enhancements to that style book were added. New sections for typography and color and so forth were added. It also now has its own URL, so you can link to the style book with a link now. That's kind of handy. And here's how the new look appears. Isn't that pretty? So you can hit typography and skip to that section, and you have all of these different options here. You can also take a look at color, for example. Pretty neat. Yeah, I think the style book has a lot of potential. There's all your blocks and how they look inside the theme. Pretty cool. Also wrapped up in Gutenberg 20, the starter patterns feature gets a new UI. So it's going to load in kind of a zoomed out mode with the pattern inserter already loaded. So when we create a new page, boom, it drops into this new pattern. So you can hit starter content and drop in what you want. That's kind of nice. This is a block theme only feature. Also in Gutenberg 20, you can easily set the posts page. Now, an addition was added in a previous version that lets you set the home page, but from right here in the pages view, you can click the options menu and choose set as the post page. So whereas previously you had to go to settings and reading to do that, now you can do that in the pages list. Again, this is for block themes. Finally, there's a display block type badge that's been added. If you rename a block, this is a minor thing, but here, like we've renamed this block, this group block about us, and they've added the icon to let you know what kind of block it is. Handy, small, but there it is. All right, let's take a look at some security news. Been a big month for vulnerabilities. 711 plugin vulnerabilities patched, 677 active or the plugin is closed, 82 theme vulnerabilities active right now. Of course, if you want to reduce your site's risk to nearly zero, Solid Security Pro is the way to go with SiteScan, version management, and PatchStack virtual patching. Number of other interesting security news to talk about. The United States Federal Trade Commission has taken a swipe at GoDaddy. They have mandated that GoDaddy overhaul its security practices. The order comes after discovering years of inadequate protection measures that left millions of websites vulnerable to attacks. The FTC found that GoDaddy failed to implement basic security measures to protect its more than 5 million hosting customers since 2018. Now, why is the Federal Trade Commission involved? Because of GoDaddy's marketing claims. They claimed that their claims contradicted their actual practices. The FTC found the company neglected crucial security practices like proper asset inventory and software update management that resulted in multiple major security breaches between 2019 and 2022. The FTC said GoDaddy's data security program was unreasonable for a company of its size and complexity. Despite its representations, GoDaddy was blind to vulnerabilities and threats in its hosting environment. The settlement requires implementation of a new set of security measures and regular third-party monitoring. If more violations occur, it could be over $50,000 per violation. It's a big deal. Something else to be aware of and something to talk to your clients about, perhaps, the AI voice scams that started to begin over the last year or so are now on the rise. Financial scams using AI voice cloning are targeting vulnerable individuals, with seniors losing $3.4 billion in 2023. Modern AI technology can replicate voices of family members with only a short audio sample, which makes it hard to detect scams. Criminals exploit emotional responses by creating urgent scenarios that demand immediate financial assistance. Hey, I'm stuck, I'm in jail, I'm whatever, and it sounds like your family member. What they suggest is implementing a unique word that family members know to verify it's them. We've actually had this in place in my family since I was a kid. And so it's a good thing. So you have like a keyword, safe word that you can give, let people know that it's actually you, because they're spoofing phone numbers as well with these scam calls. It's a big deal. Another big security issue right now is a new card skimming attack that's showing up on WordPress sites. It happens on checkout pages, and it's an interesting little vulnerability. If the site, well, first of all, your site has to be vulnerable. And if there's a vulnerability, a hacker who's employing this method can actually add code in your WP options table, and it allows the attacker to create fake payment forms that look exactly like Stripe's checkout process. The malicious code only activates on checkout pages when customers are ready to enter payment details. The data that the skimmer, basically they type, a customer types in their information, all their personal information, credit card number, address, all those things. That information is stolen, encrypted to make it look like, just harmless information. And then it's uploaded to the attacker. So it's dangerous. This can not only create fake payment forms, but also add or capture data from your existing checkout fields. This is a big deal, not something to panic over. It's still, the site does have to be vulnerable. So just continue to implement your good, solid security practices. But this is a major attack that's starting to happen here in the last several weeks. If you're concerned about WordPress security, good news, we are having Disaster Week here on Solid Academy. Again, we've done this for several years now, where for 3 or 4 days, we have brought in industry thought leaders in the security space to help us stay up to date on keeping our website safe. So once again, we are scheduled March 11th through 13th. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 hours of training over 3 days, 3 hours a day for each of those 3 days. It is a free event open to all, and we'll have replay available for each of these as well. Day 1, March 11th, 1 to 4 p.m. Central Time. We'll be having the subject of disaster-proofing your website, security strategies that work. We'll also be talking about how to implement solid security and solid backups to disaster-proof your site. And then we'll have a security strategies panel with our experts of the day, Timothy Jacobs, the lead developer of Solid WP, and David Johnson from Solid WP as well. On day 2, we'll be talking about avoiding email disasters and keeping your emails out of the spam folder, emerging trends in WordPress security, and an emerging trends panel with Timothy Jacobs and Thomas Rafe of We Watch Your Website. Day 3, March, that should say 13th, typo. Day 3, March the 13th, Kathy Zant will be with us talking about the weakest link in WordPress security. I'll be talking about care plans without chaos. And Stephanie Hudson of Focus WP will be here talking about disaster prepping your business. And then we'll wrap up with a client disasters panel with the 3 of us. That ought to be a lot of fun. So mark your calendars now, March 11th through 13th. You can click the event here. There's no real details there yet, but you can sign up for this event. We'll be updating those pages when we nail down all the specifics. While on the subject of Solid WP, a few things to talk about here. A number of good free upcoming live events here on Solid Academy. As I've mentioned before, the Quick Accessibility Audits live stream is scheduled for tomorrow with accessibility expert Jen Harries. Plugin Roundup is coming on February the 4th. We have scheduled on February 5th with our own David Johnson, a solid security setup clinic. So if you have questions about all the settings that are part of solid security, David will be walking through many of those settings and answering your specific questions about how to set up solid security on your sites. We also have a couple of accessibility live streams coming the week of February the 11th. Jen Harries will be back with us again about how to make emails accessible. And then Beth Hannon of Accessicart will be talking about the legal requirements for accessibility, specifically the new EU accessibility legislation that is coming down later this month. Really good stuff. Also, of course, WordPress News Roundup back about this time next month as well. We've had a lot of good live streams over the last few weeks. The best of July through December plugin roundup was a lot of fun. That's where we take a look at your votes for the top plugins of each month's plugin roundup. July through December was particularly good. The January 2025 plugin roundup is listed here as well. The WordPress security roundup from last week with Thomas Rafe was excellent. And if you missed it, Oliver Sild of PatchStack was with us back in November talking about how virtual patching works. The links to those replays are there in the footer. This month's premium event on Solid Academy is the Productivity Accelerator. I'll be talking about productivity the January 28th and 29th of this. That's next week. Next Tuesday, next Wednesday is our premium course for members. We'll be talking about goal setting, work-life rhythms, and practical tools to streamline your workflow. That is for our members, along with office hours every week. If you are a member of Solid Academy, Ask Me Anything. That one's always a lot of fun as well. If you'd like to join Solid Academy, membership is as low as $199 a year as part of the Solid Suite. And in addition to Solid Academy membership, you, of course, get licenses for Solid Security Pro, Solid Backups, and Solid Central, all for $199 a year. All right, let's turn the page and start talking about some plugins. We got a lot of news in the plugin world. First of all, MetaBox has released a new version called MetaBox Lite. This is a comprehensive free version of the MetaBox plugin that integrates all the free extensions. It allows the creation of custom post types, custom taxonomies, custom fields, and relationships without any code. It also includes the previously premium MetaBox Builder at no cost. So, for example, if after the starter site courses we did in November and December, you experimented a bit with MetaBox and you found that it didn't really have a good enough UI for you to work with, this new MetaBox Lite version includes that UI. It integrates with popular page builders and SEO plugins. It also has easy import function from other custom field plugins like ACF pods and Toolset. It is directly downloadable from the MetaBox website. It is not available on WordPress.org. Here's a few screenshots. It's a nice UI that lets you do everything that you'd want to do with basic custom fields and relationships. All right, just yesterday, the latest version of WooCommerce was released. 9.6 contains several new features and bug fixes. This release does not require a database update. The brands plugin has now been merged into WooCommerce Core. That's probably the most noticeable difference in this new release. So brands is in Core now. It's basically like a custom taxonomy where you can create filtering for different brands of merchandise that you're selling in your WooCommerce store. If you don't want to use that, then there is a code snippet available at the bottom link here that will allow you to unset brands from your WooCommerce store. WooCommerce will now also default to the measuring units that are associated with the store's location. So it will know if you're in the US or in the EU or wherever, and it will automatically default to pounds or kilograms or centimeters or inches or whatever. So that's kind of cool. That really should have probably been done a while ago, but now it's in Core. That's kind of nice. The product summary block has also been enhanced with a few new features. Some additional improvements to WooCommerce in 9.6 include modernization of the Woo Payments interface with React JavaScript, some improvements to the email system that are in beta. Now, this is a cool feature. The emails in WooCommerce will be automatically styled based on your theme styles if your theme supports the theme.json file. So that's kind of nice. Reduce a little bit of work to make your emails branded closer to what your website looks like. They've made some updates to the WooCommerce API that you probably won't notice unless you're a real developer-y type person. Also, this is going to be interesting, though. It's just in alpha. They've made some changes to the data store caching, part of the high-performance order system, which could lead to much faster performance in the future. So we'll keep our eye on that one. Got a lot of AI news for you this month. OpenAI produced a little post that talked about all the things that happened in OpenAI ChatGPT in 2024, and it's pretty astounding. It is likely that you'll see a feature or two here. Even if you're a regular user of OpenAPI ChatGPT, you might see some things here that even you're not using yet. So the O1 and ChatGPT Pro versions were launched. Also, their reinforcement of fine-tuning research program was launched. That invites researchers and universities with complex tasks to apply and begin to refine the way OpenAI's language models are working and make it better for all. Here's one I wasn't really following. Sora. Anybody played with Sora yet? This is a new video generation model. You can create videos in various formats and generate new content just from text. Just like you would generate an image, Sora allows you to generate video and even blend in some of your own assets. That's a real fun, it's a fun tool to play with if you haven't yet. It's got a lot of room to grow, but the first version is pretty nice. ChatGPT has also created the Canvas user interface. It lets you collaborate with ChatGPT kind of in a little side window and highlight things that you wanted to deal with. It's an interesting interface if you've not played with it yet. ChatGPT, if you're an Apple person, was also integrated with Apple Intelligence last fall, and it's really pretty cool. Also, advanced voice with video and Santa mode. Did anybody play with the Santa Claus voice in ChatGPT app? It was cute for about 10 seconds, then it got old. But the new advanced voice mode is quite good, particularly in the app. It's really good voice interface. ChatGPT has also included the projects feature, lets you organize your projects within ChatGPT, like within folders. It's pretty nice. And also, ChatGPT has launched GPT Search, which you're probably using whether you know it or not. And I've actually found it helpful as I was researching some topics where ChatGPT is actually performing the search and giving URLs to reference the sources. It's pretty nice. Last but not least, there are a few holiday treats for developers. OpenAI O1 with real-time improvements. If you've played with that new model, it's pretty nice. They also introduced 1-800-CHAT-GPT. Have you tried this? I showed this to my parents during the holidays. 15 minutes a month, free, interacting with ChatGPT over the phone. How about that? ChatGPT also allows you now to work with apps. I found that my coding app will also quickly integrate with ChatGPT with really no difficult work. And you can highlight things in the coding app, and you can reference those in ChatGPT. Pretty nice. And last of all, O3 Preview was released several weeks ago with a call for safety researchers to help to improve it. Well, another bit of news regarding AI is that yesterday, shortly after taking office, President Trump eliminated the October 2023 executive order that included a safety AI framework, a safety framework for AI development. The order created reporting mechanisms and required AI companies to share safety testing with government authorities. Biden's order had outlined the ethical use of AI in government consumer privacy protections and guidelines for identifying flaws in large language models. Those guidelines were created in collaboration with the National Institute of Standards and Technologies to help companies eliminate potential AI biases. Trump's administration believed these regulations to be excessive and a hindrance to innovation. And Google's Sundar Pichai, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, and Meta's Mark Zuckerberg were, of course, present at the inauguration yesterday, indicating their support. So we'll have to see what happens with this whole situation. Should you disclose AI use to your clients? An interesting thought from Joe Casabona last month, a blog post linked in the footer. Transparency is essential, and not disclosing that you're using AI could impact your integrity with clients. Although tools like ChatGPT or Canva AI can significantly increase your efficiency, it's important to clearly disclose in your contract how you use the tools. Letting clients see how AI supports but doesn't replace your creativity reinforces trust and positions you as forward-thinking. This is my addition. One of my favorite quotes about AI came from Sujay Pawar last year. Sujay is the founder of Brainstorm Force. Sujay says, computers did not replace accountants, but the accountants who used computers replaced those who did not. Similarly, AI alone will not replace anyone. Instead, the person who uses AI will replace those who do not. I 100% agree with that. So update your website contracts with clear AI use policies and be ready to answer those questions from clients. All right, let's take a look at some accessibility news. A lot of things have happened in the accessibility front over the last month. Accessibee, everybody's favorite overlay. Accessibee gets stung for misleading accessibility promises. They face a $1 million fine from the U.S. Federal Trade Commission for misleading claims about its ability to make websites WCAG compliant. The tool promised full compliance for websites using its access widget, but failed to deliver or provide adequate evidence, violating FTC truth in advertising laws. The FTC says companies looking for help making their websites WCAG compliant must be able to trust that products do what they're advertised to do. Overstating a product's AI or other capabilities without adequate evidence is deceptive, and the FTC will act to stop it, and I applaud this quote. Concerns also arose over the authenticity of reviews that were positioned as impartial endorsements of Accessibee services. In 2021, the National Federation for the Blind passed a resolution describing Accessibee's marketing and business practices as disrespectful and misleading. Later that year, 400 blind people, accessibility advocates, and software developers created the overlay fact sheet, calling on companies that use accessibility overlays to stop. The FTC order was approved by all 5 FTC commissioners and will be published soon in the Federal Register. It may already be published. It may be, or it's going to be open for comment for 30 days. It should end in the next few weeks here, after which the commission will decide on whether to make it final. That's just the way they do things. If, by the way, you haven't seen the accessibility, the overlay fact sheet, it's linked right here, overlayfactsheet.com. It is excellent information for clients who ask about these accessibility overlays. A federal judge in New York has determined that standalone websites without physical storefronts are not, quote, public places of public accommodation as outlined in Title III of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, this case in particular concerns a legally blind plaintiff who was unable to purchase coffee from an online-only business due to the website's incompatibility with his screen reader. This ruling could impact small businesses that are facing similar federal website accessibility laws. However, it's really important to realize that the dismissal here only applies to the ADA claim, does not address potential violations under state and local laws. I've seen this link quoted throughout social media saying, well, you don't have to worry about accessibility anymore. And that is not true even a little bit. Because also various courts have different interpretations of website accessibility requirements. And so there's certainly going to be more legal challenges about all of this. So just be aware of what this ruling is all about. Also, there's a new EU accessibility law that could have a big impact on online shopping. The European Accessibility Act requires e-commerce stores to make their platforms accessible to people with disabilities or face significant penalties when it becomes law this June. Key compliance areas include keyboard navigation, screen reader compatibility, and clear text formatting options. Small businesses with fewer than 10 employees or making less than €2 million a year are exempt. And what we have to realize here is that accessibility improvements, not only are they the right thing, but they can be a selling point for businesses because research has shown they can deliver a return of $100 for every dollar invested. Also, I'll be hosting that the live stream on February 12th with Beth Hannon, where we're going to talk about these legal requirements for website accessibility. And she'll be touching on this new EU law specifically as well. Government websites are going to face hurdles as the new standards for accessibility are looming. Now, Q just mentioned in the chat, thought the DOJ already declared all websites must be accessible. Not exactly. They've issued a ruling for government websites, which could become a standard for all, but we're a long way from that legally right now. They did say that all government websites have to be accessible. But there's a new report that states that no state website fully meets upcoming Department of Justice accessibility requirements. The study published by the Web Almanac as part of the State of the Web 2024 shows the results of a Google Lighthouse scan on the homepage and a secondary page. The assumption of the study was that if accessibility problems exist on a state's homepage, they likely exist throughout the site. Now, Colorado had the led the results at 96% compliance, with Vermont, Nevada, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia achieving above 90%. The rest were below 90%. It's also important to note that automated scans like Lighthouse are a good place to start, but they typically do not find all the problems. They do require human testing to be the most thorough. Well, let's talk about some accessibility, SEO news, shall we? You may have heard about this. It's beginning to make the news even larger. Google has cracked down on scraping tools that are used for SEO. Now, they've increased restrictions on search results scraping, and it's created disruptions for numerous SEO tracking tools. Major rank tracking services like SEMrush are experiencing delays in data refreshes due to Google's enhanced anti-scraping measures. Some smaller tracking tools have managed to work their way around it. Google's terms of service have always prohibited automated rank checking, but they have increased the enforcement of that term recently. The blocking strategy currently appears to be selective, suggesting that Google may be targeting specific scraping providers and not all of them. It remains fluid. Google hasn't talked about it, but just this morning, I got an email from an SEO tool stating that they're impacted by this issue. Microsoft. Microsoft has faced backlash for Bing's lookalike Google interface. Microsoft recently modified Bing's interface this is just sketchy, to resemble Google's homepage when users searched for Google, including a central search bar and a Google Doodle-like image. It looked like this. I mean, come on. So those design choices led to criticism from Google and others, which called it a tactic to confuse users, and Microsoft later removed the interface. I mean, come on, y'all. Here's an interesting bit of news. Just last week, GTmetrix has been acquired by a company called Group.one. Group One. Group One is a provider of hosting and digital marketing services based in Sweden. They also own notable WordPress tools like WP Rocket, Rocket CDN, Imagify, and Rank Math SEO. By purchasing GTmetrix, their goal is to provide a holistic solution for website optimization. So be interesting to see where that one goes. Let's turn the page to some other news. There is a new whitehouse.gov site. It is live, and it is powered by WordPress. So regardless of your opinion of the current occupant of the White House, the new website is well-designed, fast, and powered again by WordPress. Here's what it looks like. It's actually a nice, clean design. Matt Mullenweg tweeted about it, saying the new whitehouse.gov site looks to be powered by WordPress. It is, and is very trim and fast. They're using it to blog, publish all of the actions today. This was yesterday's tweet. I believe it was hosted by FedRAMP certified WordPress VIP, which it appears to be, with perfect uptime and security. Website transitions used to take months. You got a point there. To completely flip the site in just a few hours is pretty amazing. Google has challenged the EU's fact-checking rules. Google has formally rejected the European Union's request to implement mandatory fact-checking in search and YouTube. They say that technical limitations make it difficult to implement real-time fact-checking across millions of searches. Internal testing revealed significant challenges in determining truth from opinion in various cultural and political contexts. That would be hard to do. Google emphasized their existing systems effectively combat misinformation without compromising the autonomy of the user. Current Google practices include information panels and labels to provide context rather than direct fact-checking, but EU regulators continue to seek stronger content verification measures. Going to be interesting to see how that one shakes out. GitHub Copilot is now free for all users. GitHub has announced a free version of its Copilot API programming tool available in Microsoft's Visual Studio Code Editor, VS Code. Free users can access 2,000 code auto-completions per month, 50 chat messages with Claude 3.5 Sonnet, that's the good one, or GPT 4.0. Copilot Pro is still just $10 a month or free if you're a student, a teacher, or a maintainer of an open source project. GitHub Copilot is compatible with several editors, including, of course, VS Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains, and right there on the GitHub website. Pretty interesting. Cloudflare published their 2024 year in review. Some interesting statistics here. Global internet traffic rose more than 17% in 2024. Google maintained its position as the most popular internet service overall. OpenAI remained at the top of the generative AI category. WhatsApp is the top messaging platform, and Facebook, the top media site. As far as the browsers go, Chrome is by far the most popular browser overall on desktops. Windows Edge, the second most popular browser on Windows machines, and Safari is still way ahead of Chrome, which is interesting, on iOS devices. React, PHP, and jQuery remain the dominant technologies for building websites globally. And HTTP 3, which is a faster protocol, is now growing in popularity. More than 20% of web requests are now being made over HTTP 3. Pretty cool. Last year, there were 225 major internet disruptions. Many were the result of government-based shutdowns. Also, cable cuts and power outages were a big contributor to that number. Globally, over 41% of internet traffic comes from mobile devices. In almost 100 countries, mobile traffic is the majority. Also, about 28% of all requests are now being made over IPv6. So that technology continues to gain ground. In the security world, 6.5% of global web traffic was classified as potentially malicious or unsafe. That's a big number. Gambling and gaming was the most attacked industry. And that old Log4 Apache vulnerability that was talked about, that's been 4 years ago, remains a persistent threat still being targeted last year. When it comes to email security, 4.3% of emails were malicious. And virtually, this is interesting, virtually all email from the .bar, .rest, and .uno TLDs were found to be spam or malicious. One more note about Cloudflare. If you are using Cloudflare rules that you got from me or on the admin bar from Troy Glancy, Troy dropped a note yesterday about a change in field name expressions for Cloudflare rules. Now, what has changed is this expression, GeoIP, has changed to simply source. So typically these would be two that were used in the rules I gave you and some of the rules Troy provided. The GeoIP ASNum is now source ASNum, country here as well. Now, the reason this had to change was the term GeoIP is a trademark of MaxMind Incorporated. And so this had to be changed for trademark reasons. The current rules that are out there using the GeoIP expression still work. Don't know how long they're going to keep working, but they do currently work. So just be aware of that. That is an issue. Just a few more things here as we get to the news that's worth a look. Excellent post here from Hendrik Luersen from WP Munich, attempting to explain what in the world the WordPress ecosystem is. It's actually quite a good post. WP Tavern is now without a writer again. Jalsna, who has been writing for WP Tavern, has retired from that position for health reasons. The Gutenberg Times has celebrated its 7th anniversary. Our friend Birgit Polly Hawk has marked that anniversary. If you are, this is actually a really good, you might lose some time here, okay? So just be aware this could be a dark tunnel for you. The most hearted pins of 2024 are out from CodePen. There's some really cool code here that if you want to find some time going down the rabbit hole a bit, this is a fun link to follow. Great post from my buddy Kyle Van Dusen at the admin bar. Web developers are a-holes. You should just read it. And last but not least, my favorite link of the month is attention Kmart shoppers. So if you're an old person like me and you remember going to Kmart in the 1970s and 80s, somebody has found a bunch of old cassette and reel-to-reel tapes that were used to play the background music in Kmart's along with store advertising announcements, and they put them out there on archive.org. This is awesome. So there you have it. Wrapping up today, as we usually do, with some WordPress community news. The WordPress sustainability team has been disbanded. On January the 8th, Matt Mullenweg dissolved the WordPress sustainability team and archived its Slack channel. This decision followed the resignation of team representative Thais Besh, who stepped down, citing concerns over the leadership and direction of the WordPress project. Besh referenced a Reddit post by Matt titled, "What Drama Should I Create in 2025?" as a factor in his resignation. The sustainability team was established back in 2023 to integrate sustainable practices throughout the WordPress community. In his post dissolving the team, Matt stated, "Today I learned we had a sustainability team," and questioned its return on investment. Critics, including the influential tech journalist Kara Swisher, criticized Matt's actions as dismissive and counterproductive. Also, PatchStack was rejected as a sponsor for WordCamp Europe 2025. as a result of inadequate Five for the Future contributions. Now, if you're not familiar with Five for the Future, it's a WordPress initiative that asks companies to donate 5% of their resources to the WordPress project. They were previously sponsors. PatchStack was previously sponsors WCEU 2024 and the most recent WordCamp US. Now, that rejection came after PatchStack sponsored an event in November that cleaned up nearly 1,000 vulnerable plugins from the WordPress plugin directory. They also contributed more than $200,000 to volunteers who searched for plugin and theme vulnerabilities. As a result of all this, community members are questioning how for the Future hours are calculated, especially since this measure is now being used to approve WordCamp sponsors. The WordPress Community Collective has achieved nonprofit status. Last month, they incorporated in California as a nonprofit organization. The WPCC was founded in 2022 by Say Reed as an organization to give the WordPress community a voice and help fund individual WordPress contributors and community-led initiatives. They're currently working on a 501c6 designation through the IRS. In 2023, this is a group that successfully sponsored accessibility expert Alex Stein to work on the WordPress accessibility team. Last year, they partnered with GoDaddy to help underrepresented speakers attend WordCamp events worldwide. It's a good thing. Individuals can join the WPCC with a contribution of $5 or more, and they are planning on releasing business tiers later this year. It's a good organization. Also, keep your eye. This is just between you and me. Keep your eye on this organization as thoughts and discussions continue about the future of WordPress. GoDaddy has donated $500,000 to the WPCC. This was just announced earlier this morning. They've invested $500,000 in the WordPress Community Collective to provide financial, operational, and promotional support for the project within the WordPress community. So thank you to GoDaddy. Few upcoming major WordCamps. WordCamp Manila, WordCamp Asia is in Manila, Philippines this year, coming up in about a month, February 20 through 22. WordCamp Madrid, Spain, March 7th and 8th. WordCamp Nepal, April 4th and 5th. WordCamp Europe in Switzerland, June the 5th through the 7th. And WordCamp US back in Portland, Oregon, August 26th through 29th. And with that, we'll call it quits here for the January 2025 WordPress News Roundup here on Solid Academy. I'm dropping in today, once again, the link bundle. If you missed those slides, click that link now and grab it. Download those so you can click on the links and read more about any of those articles. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Again, we're back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Central Time with Jen Harries, talking about WordPress accessibility audits. We'll see you back then here on Solid Academy, where we go further together.